invite NSUI President Vikas Yadav to present the bouquet to welcome the Dr. Shashi Tharoor.
नहीं हो सकता ना कि सेफ्टी में खड़े उनको इधर आ जाए, क्या कीजिएगा? सामने से
no introduction, yet I came with a few words for him. He is one of those rare politicians who is also a scholar of eminence. He is not only a member of parliament but also a writer, and his writing has spread across all the corners. Most recent one being Why I Am a Hindu. Without much delay, I will request President Vikas Yadav to set the ground for the today's talk.
चीज मौका मिलना चाहिए पीछे वाले को मौका मिले फारूक भाई थोड़ा थोड़ा पीछे हो जाए, गलत बात।
Along with everything tonight, we also have Nikhil Khalaji along with us. He is so please look at. Along with that, Mukesh, Vice President of NSUI, would like to give Dr. Shashi Tharoor ji. So let's get the program begin. Vikaji, please come in and set the ground for the today's talk.
मैं विकास यादव, मैं आप सभी का JNU-New के प्रेसिडेंट होने के नाते आप सभी का यहाँ पर स्वागत करता हूँ। मैं स्वागत करता हूँ डॉक्टर शशि थरूर का। तो आज का जो हमारा टॉपिक है, Is there a space for centrist politics in India? Is there a space for centrist politics in India? इस विषय पर मैं सर को आमंत्रित करूं, उससे पहले मैं आप लोगों के साथ कुछ बातें साझा करना चाहता हूं। साथियों, फ्रेंड्स, प्लीज साथियों, आज से 2600 साल पूर्व एक महामानव बुद्ध ने सेंट्रिस्ट पॉलिटिक्स को, एक मिडिल पाथ को जो है अपना के दिखाया था और व्यवहारिक जीवन में सफलतापूर्वक अपना के बुद्ध ने दिखाया था। उसके साथ साथ जब हम आधुनिक भारत की बात करते हैं, आधुनिक भारत की जब हम बात करेंगे तो महात्मा गांधी से हम स्टार्ट करते हैं। महात्मा गांधी से पूर्व भी काफी जो है थिंकर्स थे, काफी जो आजादी के आंदोलन में अलग अलग धड़े थे। समाजवादी धड़ा रहा हो, वामपंथी धड़ा रहा हो, राइटिस्ट लोग रहे हो, एक्सट्रीमिस्ट लोग रहे, जो भी धड़े थे वो अपना अपना लड़ाई जरूर लड़ रहे थे, लेकिन कोई भी एक कॉमन प्लेटफॉर्म नहीं प्रोवाइड करवा पाया था। गांधी जी जब आते हैं यहाँ पर तो एक सेंट्रिस्ट अप्रोच को अपनाते हुए और सारे इन धड़ों को एक साथ लाने में सफल होते हैं। और इसी सेंट्रिस्ट अप्रोच का एक ये उपलब्धि थी कि सभी धड़े एक साथ एक प्लेटफॉर्म पे आए और उन्होंने अपनी आजादी की लड़ाई जो है। उसके बाद जब हम बात करते हैं नेहरू जी की, नेहरू जी ने भी जो नेहरू जी की कैबिनेट में देखेंगे तो जो उनकी पहली कैबिनेट है उसमें श्यामा प्रसाद मुखर्जी से लेके वल्लभ भाई पटेल से लेके अम्बेडकर साहब से लेके हर विचारधारा के लोग, हर तरह के लोग उसमें सम्मिलित थे। और उस सेंट्रिस्ट अप्रोच जो है, मिडिल पाथ जो है, उसी को लेके देश की डेमोक्रेसी का ताना बाना बुना गया। जब हम अपनी फॉरेन पॉलिसी को देखते हैं, नाम को देखते हैं जो नेहरू जी ने स्टार्ट की थी, तो उसमें भी हम कहीं ना कहीं सेंट्रिस्ट अप्रोच को ही पाएंगे। मैं अभी बात करना चाहता हूँ कि आज जो गंगा जमुनी तहजीब देश के जो पहले पॉलिटिशियंस थे, हमारे जो पूर्वज थे, जिनने गंगा जमुनी तहजीब को एक सामाजिक खाना बना एक गुना था, एक सौहार्द जो बनाया था, उसको आज कुछ बीजेपी ने कहीं ना कहीं तोड़ने की कोशिश की है। आज गाय के नाम पे लोगों को मारा जा रहा है, आज रोहित मुर्मू का इंस्टीट्यूशनल मर्डर किया जा रहा है, आज संजय कुमार जो अभी पिछले 5-7 दिन पहले आज संजय कुमार की जब हम बात करते हैं तो संजय कुमार को अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी पर डिफरेंट व्यू रखने के लिए मॉबिंग किया जाता है, उनको मारा जाता है मोतिहारी पुलिस में। आज जयंत सिन्हा जो कि यूनियन मिनिस्टर भारतीय जनता पार्टी के, उनमें गार्लैंडिंग करते हैं, वो मॉब लिंचर्स का उनका स्वागत करने की कोशिश करते हैं। जब इस तरीके से गवर्नमेंट समाज के ताने बाने को नुकसान पहुंचाने लगे, एक्सट्रीम विचारधाराएं जो है जो हमेशा देश के लिए खतरनाक रही है। आप देखिए कि कश्मीर में पीडीपी, पंजाब में अकाली दल, महाराष्ट्र में शिवसेना, ये जितने की समाज को तोड़ने वाली शक्तियां हैं, इन सभी पार्टियों बीजेपी की सरकार के साथ में है। इन सभी पार्टियों का गठबंधन बीजेपी सरकार के साथ है। इसी प्रकार हम जेएनयू में देखते हैं, जैसे बीजेपी गवर्नमेंट में जो भी उनकी विचारधारा से विपरीत जाता है, जो भी उनसे सहमत नहीं होता है, उसको एंटी-नेशनल में घोषित कर दिया जाता है। उसी तरह से जेएनयू में हमारे जो संगी साथी है, उनमें भी एक ताना बाना रचा हुआ है, जो भी उनकी विचारधारा से सहमत नहीं होता है, वो उसको संगी घोषित कर देते हैं। अब हम यहाँ जैसे ही हम यहाँ पर बात करते हैं, जेएनयू में अभी एसएल में कन्वेंटर रिपोर्ट गिरी, एसएल में जैसे ही कन्वेंटर रिपोर्ट गिरती है, वैसे ही जो लेफ्ट के लोग हैं वो ये कहने की बजाय कि उनसे कुछ गलतियां हुई है, उनसे कुछ कमी रही, उनने एक सीधा एक आरोप कर दिया कि एनएसयूआई जेएनयू का गठबंधन हो गया। हम वही बताना चाहते हैं यहाँ पर कि कांग्रेस और बीजेपी दोनों बिल्कुल बहुत सपोर्ट पार्टियां हैं, और कांग्रेस कभी भी भाजपा के साथ गठबंधन नहीं करने चाहिए, ये सर्वविदित है। लेकिन यहाँ पर जो हमारे क्रांतिकारी साथी है, इन लोगों ने एक डर का माहौल बनाया हुआ है। इन लोगों ने एक डर का ये माहौल बनाया हुआ है कि यदि हम उनको चूज नहीं करते, यदि आप लोग क्रांतिकारियों को चूज नहीं करते, तो बीजेपी आ जाएगी। जिस प्रकार से यहाँ पर बार बार लेफ्ट के जो लोग हैं, जेएनयू बार मिलने आने के बाद भी हर बार असफल होते हैं, किसी भी स्टूडेंट मूवमेंट को सक्सेसफुली रजिस्ट नहीं कर पा रहे, उसके बावजूद वो बार इस चीज को बोलते हैं कि साथ ही हम संघर्ष करेंगे, एक बार और मौका दीजिए, एक बार हम और लड़ना चाहते हैं। लेकिन मैं इनको एक चीज याद दिला देना चाहता हूँ कि वो कांग्रेस गवर्नमेंट थी जो हर पॉपुलर डिमांड को स्टूडेंट, यदि कांग्रेस गवर्नमेंट पॉपुलर डिमांड को नहीं मानती, तो आज 4 साल में जिस तरीके से जितने भी क्रांतिकारी साथी, जितने भी क्रांतिकारी यूनियन है, वो जिस तरीके से घुटनों में डले हैं, एक भी मूवमेंट को रजिस्ट नहीं कर पा रहे उसमें, तो ये कहीं ना कहीं शो करता है कि कांग्रेस गवर्नमेंट थी जो मिडिल अप्रोच को अपनाती थी और हर पॉपुलर डिमांड को मानती थी। मैं समझता हूँ कि आप लोग सभी लोग हैं, शशि थरूर सर को सुने आए हैं। हम आपकी बात की कदर करते हैं, मैं आपका स्पीच यही खत्म कर रहा हूँ। बीच में मैं शशि थरूर सर को आमंत्रित करता हूँ अपने ऊपर।
Okay, can you hear me? I love the energy in this room. You folks are absolutely amazing. Wonderful to see you all. बहुत कुछ कहा जो बिल्कुल करेक्ट है। मेरे ख्याल में जो विकास यही तो सही रास्ता है. But let me take a little longer to get there. You know, it's great to be in JNU because JNU has become a national symbol of student politics. Today, anywhere in India, when we discuss what is happening to our universities, to our campuses, when we discuss what the future direction of student life in this country is shaping up to be, the example everyone cites is JNU. So you all are standing at the crucible in many ways of the battle for intellectual and academic freedom in our country. It's you and all that's happened here in the last 3 or 4 years, the campus disturbances, the arrests, the sedition charges, all of this that have put student politics very much in the center of the struggle to maintain the freedoms that we have to take for granted in our democracy, but which in many ways are being besieged today. So congratulations to all of you for being right at the center of the action. JNU is the place where the future of India is being decided. Now I know all of you don't necessarily share one particular point of view. You shouldn't, because in a university campus you should all be thinking and thinking for yourselves and thinking differently. But I am here to address the topic that was given to me. Is there space for centrist politics in India today? And it's a very important question which no one would have bothered to ask a few decades ago, when it was taken for granted that our country's politics occupies the middle ground. Today the question needs to be asked because increasingly we are seeing a politics of polarization, of religious polarization, communal polarization, caste polarization, and ideological polarization. And when one looks at the argument for what kind of ideology makes sense to a young person, one often finds that young people, students, fired by enthusiasm, fired by the zeal of the new ideas they're discovering, the new books they're reading, the new political experiences they're having, tend often to be attracted to one or the other extreme. Centrism very rarely appeals on a university campus. At JNU, sometimes student politics is often seen to be about various shades of left. Right? So there's a left party, there's a party that's more left than the left party. And then there's a party that's more left than the left of the left party. And now, of course, there is a right-wing party as well that has come up on your campus. It's important to ask ourselves what these ideas stand for. Now, fundamentally, before you discuss centrism, you have to ask yourself the question, center of what? Right? So, normally, in political theory, and many of you are studying all of this, you know that ideology tends to be discussed on an economic paradigm. That is, that the normal assumption is that right-wing economics is laissez-faire economics. It says the market as the answer to all the economic dilemmas of society, that the role of the government is to stay out of the way and let the business people and capital actually create wealth for the society. That's right-wing economics. And left-wing economics, on the opposite, says that essentially, because the rich and the powerful control many of the levers of production, that it's necessary for the state to compensate for that by actually controlling and regulating the market, in some cases abolishing the market, and ensuring that the government acts in the interest of the weakest sections of society, the lowest, the poorest classes. That's left-wing economics. And India has tended to be sort of on the mixed economy path, where we have a bit of this and a bit of that, a bit of state control, a bit of free market, and we wander on. Now, I'm going to come to this in more detail later. But the point I want to make is that when in India we talk about left, right and center, economics is not enough. Because in our country's politics, the main ideological divisions in our country are not really over economic issues. As you know, the left, the Marxist persuasion, believes that the crucial issue is control over the means of production, and that the class struggle defines their political agenda. Whereas the right, of course, says that class is irrelevant, that the objective is for everyone to become wealthy and prosperous. But that alone is not the contention in Indian politics. Our politics is complicated and confused by issues of caste, by issues of region, by issues of language, by issues that go into what one might broadly describe as culture. So that, for example, when the BJP or the RSS is described as right-wing, people are not looking at the economic policies of the Swadeshi Jagran Manch, which is the RSS's main outfit that thinks about these issues. Because the economics of the Swadeshi Jagran Manch are actually extremely left-wing economics. They want state control, they want protectionism, they want restrictions on imports, they want restrictions on capital. They are completely on the basis of nationalist self-reliance, a party or a group whose economic ideas would be considered left of center. But no one thinks of the BJP and the RSS as left-wing. Why? Because their ideology is centered not on economics, but on cultural self-assertion. And therefore there is this argument that by speaking for an idea of India, which is the idea of a pristine Hindu Rashtra, an idea that excludes those who don't qualify in the terms of the RSS and the BJP, that they are therefore right of center. They're right of center culturally, rather than, in ideological terms, right of center economically. Now, it's another matter that the policy prescriptions of the Swadeshi Jagran Manch are not followed by the BJP governments we have seen. Neither the Vajpayee government nor the Modi government has actually implemented the economic policies of the Swadeshi Jagran Manch. On the contrary, they have actually been very much in favor of capitalism. In fact, what many of us accuse them of doing is catering to crony capitalism. Their friends are in the big business and big industry are the ones they cater to. But that's a different issue, and we'll come to it once again as we discuss it. Now, this complicates the understanding of right and left. In India, when we talk about left, again, and everyone, of course, quickly says it. And then they say, who will not say it? And only a few of us have the courage to raise our hands. Now, this is the problem. In a democracy, there should be no litmus test. But there are now with these people who are in power today. The definition of what is anti-national, series of rulings, has said that sedition can only apply when violence is involved, or the threat of violence, or inducement to violence, or insistence on violence. But here, we've had sedition charges slapped on JNU student leaders merely for leading a demonstration. That is the problem with this new approach to what is permissible. If dissent is not acceptable, then what happens is that anyone who deviates from the norm, and the norm itself is being redefined right by it, anyone who deviates from the norm is vulnerable. So we've just seen now the arrests of 6 or 7 people, none of whom has been freshly accused of any act relating to violence, but they have been arrested merely because they hold ideas which, as Indian citizens, they are legally and constitutionally free to hold, but which the government does not like. And that's not democracy. They may be sympathizers of the Maoists. We don't even know if that's true of all of them. But I can tell you as somebody who decidedly is not a sympathizer of Margaret's myself, that I would believe in their right to have that wrong-headed belief, because that's what democracy is. Now, we are looking at a time in our politics in which the ruling party and the ideas the ruling party holds have managed to seize the commanding heights not only of government, but through government, of the media, our television channels, and mainstream public expression. With the result that a sort of officially sanctified idea of what is the right thing to believe is being spread. I ask you, in a country like ours, with the diversity we have, is there always one right thing to believe? Should we not all have our own views of what is right and be able, as you do, I hope, in your campus, to stand up, to defend them, to argue them, to change your mind if you wish? That's what intellectual freedom is all about. That's what democracy is all about. Now, I'll tell you a little story about myself in coming to this issue of centrism. When I lost the election to be Secretary of the United Nations, within a few days of my resuming my normal work at the United Nations, though I was already planning at that point to leave the organization, I was approached by then a former minister of the previous BJP government, and he said to me, "You must come and join us. I'm sure that the other side is going to be wooing you. You must come and join my party. We need you in Indian politics." And I said to him, "But don't you know what I have been writing and believing all these years? I've articulated a certain vision of India that doesn't agree with the BJP's notion." So he said, "Oh, that doesn't matter. We believe in merit. After all, can you agree with anything that any party believes? After all, there will be something to disagree with us, there will be something to disagree with them, come to us." So I very politely said goodbye, and then, indeed, when I came back to India after leaving the UN, I went to Kerala where the Communist Party was in power, and I found myself very surprisingly being invited by them to associate myself with their activities and their beliefs. And I again said, "But I'm not really a big fan of Marx." Having read Marx on the subject of India, it becomes very difficult to take Marx seriously. Because what many people don't realize is that Karl Marx wrote articles on India for the New York Herald Tribune in 1815, and he had the most offensive ideas. He thought British colonialism was a good thing, that India was mired in something he called Oriental despotism, and that colonial rule was actually helping India break forth into modernity, and other such fatuous notions, which had much more to do with an old white guy sitting in a British library than with anything to do with the reality of the experience of India and the British. So I was not a fan of Marx, and I didn't think that class struggle and means of production explained all the dilemmas facing societies and economies, and particularly in the context of India, where, for example, caste was often a more oppressive social reality than class. You could be rich, but if you're the wrong caste, you suffered certain disabilities. In that kind of country, Marx's analysis had no credible place as far as I was concerned. So I was interested. And then, to my surprise, I was asked by the Congress Party whether I would join. And I thought about it long and hard, and this is where the centrism came. As I studied what I could see of Indian politics up to that point, remember just a couple of years previously, the BJP had fought an election on the slogan "India Shining," but they had never bothered to ask who India was shining for. And to my mind, that was trouble. It was not just the baggage of bigotry, of Hindutva, of the destruction of the Babri Masjid, of the intolerance that was expressed by so many members and leaders and fellow travelers of the BJP that bothered me. It was also that when they had a chance of 6 years of power, they did not seem to think about the lowest, poorest, weakest elements of our society. On the other hand, we had the left, which systematically seemed to oppose every policy that could pull the poor out of poverty. Every time that any government came up with a program that would empower the poor and get them to break free of the shackles of poverty, the first critics were the left, and I began to wonder whether that was because they felt the poor needed to stay poor for them to have anyone to vote for. And the left, of course, was also mired not just in a 19th century ideology, but in a generally backward attitude to technical progress. So, for example, you look at when computers first came to India, when Rajiv Gandhi, as Prime Minister, introduced computers into India, and there were computers placed in the life insurance corporation offices in the public sector banks, the Communist parties organized bands of gulas to go in and smash those computers. That actually happened in 1984-85 because they felt that computers would cost people jobs. 10 years later, when mobile phones had to be introduced in India, the communists again opposed it, saying mobile phones are bad because they're going to be playthings of the rich. And as you know, today every communist leader has at least one mobile phone chirping away at his pocket. But equally important, what was demonstrated was that the communists were consistently wrong about every single development in the human race to technological progress, but they needed 15 years to realize that. And the country doesn't have 15 years to waste with that. And that left me with the Congress. What do I think about the Congress? I have been a critic of the Congress in my youth. In my early books, you'll see a lot of negative writings about the Congress, particularly the emergency. But I felt that the Congress, after 1991, had got a couple of things right. It had freed the economy from the shackles of statism. It had decided to end the license permit quota raj that had put bureaucrats rather than business people on the commanding heights of the economy. But at the same time, it remained committed to social justice. Because I have often argued, and I've said this very phrase in Parliament, that the magic market will not appeal to those who cannot afford to enter the marketplace. You have to help the weakest sections of your society to get enough strength that they can become consumers themselves, and then your market will grow. So, free market, yes, but also regulated. Generate revenues from liberalization and from capitalism. Generate wealth, but distribute the revenues the government accrues from this capitalist activity, distributed to those who don't have enough. And I would often argue, it doesn't matter whether we grow by 6% or 9%, as long as we don't stop thinking about the bottom 25% of our society. And that's what the Congress Party was prepared to do. It was open to technology. It's quite a fact that Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister who anyway built that bridge to the 21st century for the previous generation of young Indians. At the same time, it was open to the liberalization, but it believed in social justice. It was committed to the rights of the weakest sections of our society. And this agenda is what I would call today a centrist agenda. It shares with the left the concern for the poorest of the poor, the Dalits, the Adivasis, the handicapped, the excluded, the marginalized. It shares with the right a respect for wealth creation and for technology and technological progress. But it marries the two in a way that neither the right nor the left are prepared to do. This is why I believe that we need to fight assertively for an active sector. The problem with centrist politics in many countries is that it is often seen as weak and unassertive politics. The perception is, if you're not on the left or the right, you're in the middle of the road, then that's exactly where you'll get run over by all the traffic. You get hit from both sides. But the fact is, what we need is an assertive and confident centrism. We need a centrism that says, you are wrong and you are wrong, We believe we have the right approach for the nation, and that's what the Congress Party and the NSUI are. I know you're facing elections at JNU on the 14th of September. You have to vote for student leaders who will effectively represent student interests. But you are also looking at a larger political picture in our country. You are looking at what kind of message can be sent to the broader student community around the country that looks to JNU to set an example. And you are also looking at the broader political message to the nation. Are you once again going to return some extreme left kids, idealist, wonderful people, I'm sure, good human beings, but whose ideas are so far-fetched that they will find no space, no traction in the mainstream of our society? Are you going to fall into the opposite trap and look for people whose idea of democracy is that whatever Mr. Modi and Mr. Amit Shah says is right? Or are you going to give yourself the scope and the space to give and repose some faith in the active, thoughtful center? See, to my mind, and I'm quite willing to take your questions and comments, to my mind, the challenge facing our country today is to reconcile all these ideas that are fundamentally in conflict with each other, to reconcile them in a way that will bring Indians together rather than drive them apart. The politics of communal polarization divide India. The politics of class struggle divide India. The politics of both left and right actually end up keeping us farther apart. The politics of the center says, let us be united in a common cause, let us find common ground from both sides, but let us move forward with determination. So my argument to you today is, don't be misled by those who speak in terms of what is national, anti-national, how you can be truly patriotic, or how you can be truly a person of principle. The best principles are the ones that work, and the best principles that work are the ones that include, that bring people together, that help build up a better India. We want unity. They want uniformity. We want this. They want conformity. These are very different ideas. What we're talking about is, you have your own views, come and meet in the middle. You have your own views, come and meet in the middle. Let's all get together for a common purpose of creating and building a better India. I really want to leave a few minutes for questions from all of you, and I know the hour is late. So I'm going to bring this to a close now. But I will end by saying, very simply, when we ask, is there space for centrism, we have to acknowledge that that space is being squeezed by both sides. And we have to recognize for ourselves the danger in that squeezing. Because the party workers determine who the leader is, not any individual person. Yeah. Okay, wherever she gives the mic is where the questions will come. She's a power center.
Hello, sir. So my question is that when you talk about the confidence center, there's also this problem of it being a catch-all party. And in that, a lot of this confidence is diluted. So how do we put our faith in this confidence center when I know that its tendency to catch all would ultimately dilute its power?
Well, would catch all necessarily dilute? It's a good question. And I don't want to minimize the importance of the question, because she's right that within the old Big Ten free marketeers, we had left-wing professed Marxists, we had people accused of Hindutva light, we had people accused of being Muslim chauvinists. Everyone was under one party. But I want to stress, where we have to regroup within the party is around a core set of principles. So if we all agree on certain principles, then the fact that it's a catch-all party won't matter, because those core principles will be the ones that defend. So I take, for example, the economics I described. Free market and wealth creation, plus social justice and redistribution of revenue, attention to the weaker sections, then you've got a core economic philosophy. So we cannot therefore say that somebody who only believes in the free market and doesn't believe in any welfareism or distribution has a place in the Congress. He does not. He'll have to go away somewhere else. Or somebody who only believes in class struggle, nationalizing everything, running the government, she also will not belong. Because in the center now, we have to bring both groups along. So you can call it catch-all, but it's a way of integrating the best of both left and right in an assertive policy. Have the principles, define the principles, and then move forward. Somebody who believes in the RSS idea of Hindu Rashtra cannot have a place in the Congress party. That much. There has to be some core right here.
Please maintain the silence.
Can you put it a little closer to your mouth?
It's not a result of of 4 years. It might be the result of last 7 to 10 years increasing IT and ICT, improvement in ICT. So what's your take on this? Like, how do you think that so what is this solution? Because people are getting intolerant on the short statement in one body character. So how we can make it?
Fair enough. Now he says that intolerance is actually a result of the growth of IT and ICT in the last 7-8 years, not only the politics of the last 4 years. But I will ask you, the ICT and IT intolerance is, of course, there, but it's there as a vehicle for expressing certain ideas. Who has encouraged, built up, and propagated those ideas of intolerance and hatred? That's the question that I would ask you. If ICT didn't exist, then you wouldn't have this means of promoting these ideas, but you would have other means available to you. And what we have been seeing is, ICT was adopted because in the initial years, let's say when UPA was in power, people in the Hindutva movement felt that the mainstream media wasn't giving them enough space, and therefore they needed to aggressively capture social media to promote their message. So that's why ICT became the favored vehicle. But the message has been one of extreme bigotry and intolerance. What is worse is that it has been accompanied by some pretty vile stuff. I mean, one of my party colleagues, a spokeswoman for the Congress, her 11-year-old daughter was threatened with kidnapping and rape. So that's not acceptable political discourse. But it's the kind of thing that is happening on social media in this polarized environment that we are facing in our country. So to my mind, blaming it on IT is not enough. IT is the messenger, is the vehicle. The idea, the content is what matters. The mic is with Nayantika, you have to persuade.
Just a minute, please hold on. 1 minute सुनिए. उस वहाँ से आपकी आवाज आएगी भी नहीं. एक क्वेश्चन यहाँ है, उसका मैं आता हूँ आपके पास माइक. 1 मिनट भाई, 1 मिनट, please. Please 1 minute.
Go ahead.
So, talking about centrist politics and what is JNU is in direct exam. The thing is, today the only centrist party that I look forward to as a youth is the Congress. But my question is, talking about specifically the leadership of the Congress. So when Rahul Gandhi is accused of being an anti-Hindu, and being a Muslim supporter, I don't want him to go to a temple and make a political statement. I mean, he has the right to go to it, but I want him to say, so what if I'm a Muslim supporter? That does not mean I'm anti-Hindu. So that kind of secularism, why is it not cropping up? If you start playing to the rules of the games that the BJP has set, so soft Hindutva on your part is also making Muslims political untouchables. So how do you answer that?
Well, it's an excellent question, but I will disagree slightly with your presumption. I'll tell you why. Because I myself have been accused of the same thing, and some of you have given me copies of my book, Why I'm a Hindu Sign. My argument is that what we are offering is not soft Hindutva. We are putting up Hinduism against Hindutva. We are saying Hindutva is not Hinduism. And that many people in this country are proud to be Hindus, are proud to be Muslims, are proud to be Christian. But their pride does not come at the expense of excluding people of those other faiths, let alone attacking people of those other faiths. So, when I quote Swami Vivekananda, whom the BJP was trying to arrogate to themselves, until I started going out, they actually were pretending that Swami Vivekananda was their idol. He is not. They disagree fundamentally with Swami Vivekananda, but they've been pretending otherwise. The Swami Vivekananda, his central argument, yes, he spoke about reviving Hinduism. He spoke about Hinduism conquering the world. But what philosophy did he want to conquer the world? The philosophy of acceptance. He said, and I read this when I was younger than most of you in this room, in his famous speech at the World Parliament of Religions in Chicago, he said, I am proud to speak for a faith which has not only taught the world tolerance, but acceptance. Now, I thought about that from those days, from my teenage days, and it struck me as a very profound idea. Because like many of you, I too have studied in my school textbooks that tolerance is a virtue. A tolerant king is a good king, is a just king because he's fair to all his subjects. That idea of tolerance was there from a very early age. But when you think about it, tolerance is actually a rather patronizing idea. Because tolerance says, I have the truth, you are in error, but I will magnanimously indulge you in your right to be wrong. That's what tolerance really is. What Swami Vivekananda says, no, it's we believe in acceptance. And acceptance says, I believe I have the truth. You believe you have the truth. I will respect your truth. Please respect my truth. Isn't that a better way of getting along in society? So my answer to the Hindutva movement is, you speak of a Hindutva that is exclusionary. You speak of a Hindutva that finds no place for Muslims and Christians, and all those who, according to you, do not consider India their Punya Bhumi. As you know, the Hindutva idea is that the only people with a claim to this country are those for whom it is their Matra Bhumi, their birthplace, their Pitra Bhumi, the land of their ancestors, and their Punya Bhumi, their holy land. But the fact is, for a Muslim or a Christian, India is a holy place and many of them are great shrines to go to here, but their main holy land is somewhere else. And on that basis, Hindutva will exclude them from all the privileges of Indian citizenship and a place and a right in this country. I believe that's wrong. That's why I said that if these people have a chance to come back to power and pursue their announced dream of a Hindu Rashtra, that then they will reduce this country to a Hindu version of Pakistan. And I don't want my country to be a Hindu Pakistan. I'm proud of us being the country we are. So I was saying to this young lady that we refuse to accept the rules of the game the BJP has set. We say, we are Hindu, but we are not followers of Hindutva. We say, Rahul Gandhi will go to Kailash Mansarovar because he's a Shaivite. But at the same time, he will oppose what the BJP and the RSS stand for. We say that we are proud of our Muslim and Christian colleagues in our party and our Sikh colleagues in our party. And as far as we are concerned, every one of them has the same rights as any of us. And indeed, we are proud that we have given the country a Sikh Prime Minister, we have given the country a Dalit President, we have given the country a couple of Muslim presidents. That's what Congress has always stood for, that idea of India. And we won't let the BJP redefine it for us. So I just want to stress, there is no Hindutva right. Where we cite Hinduism, it is Hinduism as against Hindutva, which we believe is a betrayal of what Hinduism should be all about and is all about. Yes, you finally have the mic.
Without mic, I could have got to it. Thank you so much for your politically correct speech here. And I would like to...
I've never been accused of political correctness. I'm usually politically incorrect. I'll take the praise when it comes.
You are talking about the attractiveness of the centrist tendency.
Right.
Centrist tendency seems to be a weak tendency. But what kind of attractiveness are you referring to? Is it the same attractiveness that was imposed upon us during the time of emergency by your party? And you are there.
It wasn't my party then, and I was in critical emergency at that time. The advantage I have is I have a 35-year-old paper trail. Everything I've said and believed I have written and published somewhere. So if I'm ever going to be guilty of inconsistency or hypocrisy, you will be able to find the evidence yourself by going to my own books, by going to my articles. You'll see. I was a critic of the emergency. I was hostile to the Congress party at that time. As I said, I changed my view about the Congress after 91, when I believe in many ways economics, politics, and other ideas, it became the closest to a liberal centrist party that I could support. But let me say one more thing. Since you mentioned the emergency, what we are now living in many ways is an undeclared emergency. I'll give you an example. What the Congress government did in 75 was to censor the press. They actually sent censors to every newspaper office who had the right to say you will not publish this article. Amusingly enough for me, not so amusing at that time, but now looking back, one of my own short stories was censored because it was a story called The Political Murder, and the government did not want any idea that there would be such a thing as a political murder in the country. So a short story, a fictional story, was spiked by the emergency era censors. So I know what censorship was like. Today, there is no censor sitting in a newspaper office. There is instead a phone call. Please let me answer this question. Instead, there is a phone call. Often not even to the editor. The phone call is to the owner of the publication. Saying, you have another business, right? You might get a visit from the taxman tomorrow. That is the undeclared emergency.
Hello, bhai sahab, excuse me. Please take give the chance to others. There are many people and many questions here. Throw out the question, please. At least maintain the decorum.
Please maintain the decorum. Please, I request maintain the decorum.
It's good to have you in the campus, sir. Thank you. Question. So I wanted to have your opinion on this very long time now. A couple of weeks ago, I saw Len.
Yeah, it's working. It's working.
Hello. Yeah. So it was a video in which you and late Mr. Questions were discussing on freedom of expression, and you had a rather diplomatic stance on that issue.
Well, I was a UN official at the time.
Yes. So I said that at that point in time. What my question? Have you altered your ideas, or have you changed your mind on that issue so far? And let me ask you this: do you think that when people should have the right to burn Manusmriti and Quran in order to show the protest that they have, do you think that they should also have the right to go to Jantar Mantar and burn a copy of the Constitution, and that should be protected? Do you think that when people should have the right to make anti-Brahmanism remarks, do you think that people also have the right to make these remarks? Or the society to that level where we can accept all these ideas, the absolute freedom of thought in the society? What are your views?
My views are what I articulated in that video, but let me explain them to the audience. There's a famous expression by an American judge a century ago who said that freedom of speech does not amount to the right to falsely shout fire in a crowded theatre. What does that mean? You shout fire, there is a stampede, people will crush each other to death, people will die, lives will be lost, property will be damaged. Your right to shout fire is not greater than their right to life and peace and dignity. So that is the basic idea. Today in America, they come closest to Christopher Hitchens' notion of absolute freedom. They have the so-called First Amendment, which gives them absolute freedom of expression. But even in America, you will not find a white editor using the N-word to describe black Americans. Not because it's against the law. It is protected, but it would create a level of social unrest that he would not feel is wise in the society. I believe that it would be ideal if by the time you got to my age, we had evolved to a point where everything you said is permissible. Today in India, you can burn the Constitution and no one is going to put you in jail. I don't know about the present government, But certainly, most other governments will not put you in jail. But you cannot burn the religious texts you mentioned, because the police would prevent you from doing so out of fear of disturbance to law and order. Why is that? It's because our society hasn't evolved yet to the point you want it to be. Our society is in a place where emotions and passions are fragile, where trying to insult the holy book of a few million people is like lighting a cigarette in a petrol dump. And frankly, if I am in charge of the street where that petrol dump is, I would rather stop you lighting that cigarette, even though I'm violating your right to light the cigarette, than risk the petrol dump and everyone around it blowing up in flames. That is the challenge. That is the challenge that the Congress government has sometimes faced. So and I was not in the Home Ministry, so it's not my decision, but I can tell you that the government basically took the view that cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad were likely to cost lives in India. And therefore there was no question of granting anyone the freedom to publish such cartoons. It's as simple as that. Now, you may say the rights or wrongs of this. For example, I as a writer had objected to the banning of Salman Rushdie's satanic verses. And I had taken the position at that time that if somebody commits violence because of a book, they should be punished and not the book. And I have taken the position that the author's right to write literature should be defended by a liberal democracy like India. The problem is precisely the same thing that came up in the past, which is why I had to understand that those in charge of law and order have a thankless task in our society. They have to determine whether, in their judgment, not banning the book would cause more problems than banning the book. By banning the book, they essentially violated the sensibilities of a lot of intellectuals, writers, artistic community, people like myself. By not banning the book, they would have inflamed the opinions of a lot of people who may have never read the book, but who would have been told by their political leaders that this is a book that has blasphemed the Prophet. They would have been encouraged to march on the bookshop stocking it. There would have been fires and burning and police action and lathi charges and God knows what else, and lives would have been lost. In fact, that's exactly what happened in Pakistan. In Pakistan, they were slower to ban the book, and indeed 7 lives were lost in precisely such a demonstration. So I just want to say, it's a tough job. Governance is a tough job. There are no perfect governments. They never have been, and if tomorrow you bring us back to power, we won't be perfect. But we'll be a downside less imperfect than the people who are ruling the Good. Last 3 questions, then I have to go. It's actually almost, I get home after midnight, you know I leave now. Okay, 1, and then you pick 2 more.
I see there must be some difference between politics of centrism and ideology of politics.
Right.
Now, when we talk about politics, there is always some focus and there is always a behavior.
Hold the mic a little closer, you're using some of it.
When we talk about, when you go into the arena of politics, there is always some agenda, there is always a slogan. Now, how would you differentiate between politics of appeasement and politics of centrism?
Appeasement is a very mysterious word in our political lexicon. It seems the BJP has a copyright on it. So they've decided that if you have a Sachar commission looking at the condition of Muslims, that is appeasement. They've decided if you subsidize the cost for some travelers to go on the Hajj, that is appeasement. They've decided if you give money to some of the madrasas to teach science and mathematics, that is appeasement. Well, do we have to accept their label? To my mind, it is a responsible, progressive, centrist idea that says madrasas are a reality. Many of the kids who are going to the madrasas are only learning the Quran. Let's also help them teach science and mathematics by giving them some aid. You're saying many poor people are going on the Hajj who can't afford the Air India fares. Let's give Air India something. That is actually being phased out now, but we did it for some years. We are saying some communities are still very concerned that their personal law should be protected for marriage, inheritance and divorce. Let's allow them to do so. to my mind, these are not appeasement tactics, these are tactics of a form of governance. And you can legitimately disagree. If you want to stand up tomorrow and say that I consider all of these policies are wrong and I want to stop them, if you win votes on that basis, you can stop them. That's what democracy is all about. But I'm not going to denounce that policy because I believe I understand the rationale for those decisions that were made by previous Congress governments. Now, the other thing about appeasement that bothers me is, if the Muslim minority was so constantly appeased for 70 years as the BJP believes, why is it that they're still the poorest, most marginalized, most socially disadvantaged religious community in our country? Clearly, if at all there was appeasement, it hasn't gone far enough. So maybe there should be a case for more appeasement rather than less.
We'll be taking 2-3 questions together. One question is coming from...
Just to go, Professor.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for being here and enlightening us all. My question to you is that Mr. Donald Trump has been trying to impose the protectionist policies not only in the US but also on the other governments as well. And my question is, if you were, let us say that the Congress party would have been at the center, how would you have dealt with the issue of sanctions on Iran, particularly this issue?
It's a tough one, I have to say. We did actually face some sanctions on Iran during UPA 2. And what we were able to persuade President Obama was to give us a waiver where two things happened. We slightly reduced the quantity of oil we getting from Iran, yes, but we were not banned from purchasing it altogether. And secondly, we agreed that he would pay Iran in rupees so that no dollar transactions went to Iran, which would have been a violation of sanctions. So we found a via medium and got it done that way. I'm assuming that the Modi government will have the imagination to follow the example that we set, because clearly Iran is the closest country to us in terms of oil-producing countries. Therefore, the transportation costs of oil from Iran are cheaper for us than from Saudi Arabia or Qatar or anywhere else, and we would therefore lose if we were to increase our dependence on oil from sources farther away instead of from Iran. So it's in our interest to continue. But the problem that many people feel is this government has gone so much into bed with Mr. Trump's administration that it may find it more difficult to negotiate a self-respecting government. Okay, last question.
Last question. So I want to come back to the university politics, and since we are in the university.
Exactly. I was going to end on that. Go ahead.
Yeah. What we have been recently witnessing in JNU is that the elections are being for a national issue. I mean, the left parties are fighting all against Modi, the APN is fighting all in support of Modi. But do you think that is bad or useless in the sense that it is not actually gonna, be useful in any way, whether you support a particular party in the campus? I mean, you cannot influence the policies in the center in that way.
Actually, you can. I'll tell you. It's a very interesting one. First of all, as a general proposition, you're right. But let me tell you, as I said earlier, the signal you send from here will be heard. If ABVP wins the election in JNU, it will be a boost for Mr. Modi. No question. It will be a big boost for it. If NSUI wins, it will send a message, not only that Mr. Modi's politics are not acceptable here, but that JNU students believe there is a viable alternative in the center. No, so my argument is this. I was myself president of my college students' union as a student. I believe that the student leadership must stand up for the direct interests of students on the campus. I hope that our candidates here will be focused on your issues also. But it's likely, as often happens in student elections, that all the candidates will touch on the same issue. Which one you choose is not only about which issues they will take up, but how they will take it up and the manner in which they will defend your interests. So if you want that, NSUI, please vote NSUI. Thank you.